Hello, students. Today we are going to understand the chapter A Truly Beautiful Mind. Do you know that great men are not born with a special science? In their childhood days, they are also like common children, and their likes and dislikes are very much similar to them. Their parents also take care of them as normally parents do. Gradually, these children develop some specific virtues and become great when they grow up. But what makes them different? These great souls have huge love for humanity. They always think about the welfare of human beings. To achieve their goals, they work continuously so that the world may become a better place to live in. As they have compassionate heart, they are often ready to sacrifice their happiness. The service of humanity is everything for them. We should take valuable lessons from the life of such people. Einstein was such a great soul. So, in this chapter, we are going to understand about Einstein. It is a short biography of Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm without any indication that he was destined for greatness. See, Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm without any indication. Indication means sign that he was destined. Destined means predetermined. Nothing was predetermined that he would one day become a great leader with greatness, that he will be known for his skill and importance. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. On the contrary means in just the opposite way. His mother used to think that Albert Einstein was a freak. He was crazy. He was not at all able to behave properly like a normal child. To her, his head seemed much too large. Means her mother always used to see his head much larger than the other normal children. So she used to think that he was different from other children of his age. He behaved abnormally. It seemed as if he had lesser intelligence in comparison to other children. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. Means when he was of the age of 2.5 years, he was not at all able to speak. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered. Uttered means said everything twice. He used to speak each and every word twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring. So, Albert Einstein started talking twice. He started speaking every word twice, and he remained to himself all the time. He used to play with himself only because his other playmates, the students who used to play with him, they always speak about him as a brother boring. They always felt bored with him. So the youngster played by himself much of the time. So he remained to himself all the time. He used to play with himself only. He especially loved mechanical toys. Especially means he particularly loved the mechanical toys. Mechanical means the toys which are related to machine. So he loved the toys which are made of machine. Looking at his newborn sister means the sister which was recently born at that time. So after looking at her, the name of her sister was Maza, he is said to have said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" So he was always thinking that everything is made up of machines. So when her sister was born, he asked her mother, "Everything is okay, but where are her wheels?" So from the very beginning, since his childhood, he loved mechanical toys. Such toys in which some kind of machinery was used, such as automated cars, airplanes. So when his sister was born and he looked at her, he could not see her feet. He was wondering where the baby's wheels were. That means the feet of the baby. As Albert Einstein used to play with toys, and all the toys had a set of wheels. To him, Maza seemed to be a toy too, and so he might have thought that where were her wheels? A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession wouldn't matter because he will never make a success at anything. So, the headmaster of Einstein's school told Einstein's father that whatever occupation he would choose in his life, he would never become a success. Success means he will never achieve something. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. A gifted means he was God gifted. He was having a special ability to play a violin. Amateur means non-professional violinist. Violinist means a person who plays the violin, and he maintained that skill. He continued to have that skill, particular ability throughout his life. He was a very good violinist. He learned playing the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to learn to play. All his life, he was an amateur violinist. He played the violin as a hobby, not as a profession. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. Pupil means he was not a bad student. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old and scored good marks in almost every subject. Every subject means in every topic. Einstein hated the school's regimentation. Regimentation means discipline, and often clashed. Clashed means fight with his teachers. So at the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled. Stifled means he felt suffocated there that he left the school for good. Albert Einstein was a very good student. He went to a school in Munich because his family had moved from Ulm to Munich when he was 15 months old, and there he scored good almost in every subject. But the school where Einstein went had a very strict discipline, which he disliked. Due to that, he often had a fight with his teachers' opinions and he used to oppose them. So he was so much suffocated, stifled. Stifled means he was so much suffocated in that school that because he could not follow the strict discipline. And so he left that school forever. The previous years means the year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. So when Albert Einstein left that school 1 year before that, his parents had moved to another city, Milan, and Milan, which is in Italy, and Albert was left behind in Munich with his relatives. After prolonged discussion means after discussing many times, Einstein got his wish wish means desire, to continue his education in German speaking Switzerland in a city which was more liberal than Munich. More liberal. Liberal means open to new behavior. So, after a long discussion, Einstein got his desire fulfilled. So, he was allowed to continue his education in German speaking Switzerland in a city which was more liberal than Munich. So, what happened here? So, he joined a school in Munich. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics, and after finishing his school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. So Einstein was good at his studies. He was highly gifted in mathematics, so he was exceptionally good in mathematics. And he also had interest in physics. So once he finished his school, he joined the university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus mustache. So, science was not the only thing that appealed. Appealed means that to the dashing, that move quickly. Dashing means to move quickly. Appealed means attract. Walrus mustache. Walrus is a mammal. So, science was not the only thing that appealed to Einstein, who was a very handsome young man. Other than science, he had interest in something else also. He also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Mileva Mare, whom he found to be a clever creature. So, other than maths and physics, Albert Einstein liked one of his fellow students. Her name was Mileva Mare. He thought that she was very clever, sharp, and intelligent. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. So they met at the University of Zurich. So Mileva Maric belonged to Serbia and she came from Serbia to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few universities in Europe which gave degrees to female students. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines, those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. Ally, supporter friends, constantly means continuously, at odds means disagree. So, Einstein felt that Melivia was a friend because she also liked art, literature, or music. Both shared this common interest. In those days, having interest in art, literature, or music was not considered to be good. So, those people who were interested in art, literature, or music used to call their opponents Philistines. Albert Einstein's family and many people in the university were not in favor of this. So, against such people, Albert Einstein and Mileva Maric's unity helped them face the situation. Wrote Einstein, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." So, the couple fell in love and letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. Tender means gentle. So Albert Einstein and Mileva Maric fell in love and they exchanged love letters to express their feelings. They used to write such kinds of letters where they used to mix science with their feelings. At one instance, Einstein talked about his scientific invention and said that he would be very proud on that day when they would finally conclude their paper on the theory of relativity. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. Means in the 1900, Albert Einstein was 21 years of age and he completed his graduation from the university but was still unemployed. Means he was not having any job. He worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and finally secured a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. So, from 1900 to 1902, Albert Einstein was working as a teaching assistant and he gave private lessons, means he started giving tuitions also. Finally, in 1902, he got a job in Bern. Bern is a city in Germany. He got the job of a technical officer in a patents office in Bern. While he was supposed to be assessing other people's inventions, Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. So Einstein's work was to check the inventions which were done by the other people and to give them a patent. On the other hand, secretly, he was making his own inventions too. He is said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at the work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Einstein later said that the desk on which he worked was the Office of Theoretical Physics because there only he started working on his inventions and there only he used to do his work secretly. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. So, in the year 1905, Einstein published his first paper. It was about the special theory of relativity. In this publication, it was written that the measurement of time and distance is not absolute. It depended on something else. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. So, according to the theory, if there are two clocks and both are moving, they will not show the same time. One clock will move faster than the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E is equals to mc square. This is a mathematical equation. Here E stands for energy and m for mass and c for the speed of the light in a vacuum. Okay, so this theory of relativity gave us this formula of physics, that is E is equals to mc square. To put it into a simpler words, Einstein said that when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. On the other hand, when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours. That is a relativity. So a person would feel the timing differently. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Unraveling means solving. Though he was solving the complicated problems in physics for the world, his personal life started becoming problematic. He started to fail in his personal life. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. Means Albert wanted to marry Mileva Merrick soon after he finished his studies, but his mother was against this. She doesn't want him to marry Mileva Merrick. She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. Means She used to think that the Mileva Merrick, who was 3 years elder to Albert Einstein, she was very old for him. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. She is a book like you, his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. So his mother thought that Mileva was a very intelligent to be a wife. And she told Einstein that Mileva was also like a book and was similar to him. As his mother was against this marriage, so he cancelled his wedding with Mileva. The pair finally married in January 1903. So Albert Einstein married Mileva Merrick in the year 1903 and they had two sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. Faltered means wavered, became weak. So after few years, their marriage failed. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. So, as Mileva Marik was very intelligent, being a housewife, she could not cope with her ambitions. She could not fulfill her ambitions. And so, she started becoming unhappy. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. So, as Mileva was very happy from this marriage, she could not fulfill her career dreams. So, finally, in the year 1919, after prolonged fighting, both of them separated and Albert Einstein married the second time and he married his cousin Elsa. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. Now, at this time, Einstein married Elsa. Another thing coincided. It was Einstein's rise to world fame. Einstein became world famous. Everyone acknowledged him as a great scientist. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. Interpretation means explanation of gravity. Gravity, you all know, that is a force of attraction between two objects. So in the year 1915, he published one more paper, which was based on general theory of relativity, which gave a new interpretation to gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. Eclipse, you all know, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse. So here, eclipse of the sun means solar eclipse. So in the year 1919, there was a solar eclipse which proved that Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity was correct. Accurate means exact. It was correct. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. Deflected means it will change direction. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Revolution means change. So, Albert Einstein had calculated in the year 1915 that in the year 1919, there would be a solar eclipse. Due to it, the apparent position of the stars would change to some extent, and his calculations were accurate. So it was announced that Albert Einstein's work was a scientific revolution. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. So, Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics in the year 1921 and he was honored and many peoples, many countries invited him from all over the world and lauded by the press. Press also praised for him. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to the United States. Emigrated means he left a country permanently. So in 1933, when Germany came under the power of Nazis, uh, the famous Nazi ruler was Adolf Hitler at that time. So Einstein left the Germany and he shifted himself to the United States of America forever. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. Means what happened after 5 years? The Germans discovered the process of nuclear fission, the process through which nuclear bombs or atomic bombs are made. This is nuclear fission. So, this process was prepared at Berlin. Due to this, all the physicists in America were upset as they feared misuse of the technology. Many of them had fled from fascism just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. So there were many scientists who escaped to America because of fascism. Fascism means a dictatorial concept which was started in Europe from Italy by the rule of Benito Mussolini. All the scientists were afraid that the Nazis could misuse the atomic bomb. At the urging of a colleague means partners, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2 August 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. So, Albert Einstein was requested by his colleagues, by his friends. So, he wrote a letter to the President of the America, at that time was Franklin D. Roosevelt, on 2nd August 1939. He warned him that the atomic bomb, which was developed by Germany, was very powerful. If one of these bombs exploded on any port, it would not only destroy the area, but it would destroy the surrounding territory also. This shows Einstein's humanitarian quality. He wanted good for the people. He wanted peace in the world. That is why he wrote his concern to the President of America and warned him. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. So, when he wrote this letter to the president, this letter didn't had any impact on the Franklin D. Roosevelt. So, what happened? The Americans developed the atomic bomb secretly and dropped it on two cities of Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Germans had just developed the atomic bomb. They did not use it on any country, but America did. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. By the extent of the destruction means lot of destruction took place, and Einstein was very deeply shaken. He was very hurt. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. Public missive means he wrote a letter, especially long and official, to the United Nations organization. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government. So, Albert Einstein, in his letter, proposed to form a world government, but this letter did not bear any fruit. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. But over the next decade means 10 years, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildup and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. Campaign means joint effort. Now, Albert Einstein proposed to form a world government which does not bear any fruit. So, for another 10 years, Albert Einstein was involved in world peace. He was involved in politics, and his agenda was to stop the countries involved in collecting arms and developing weapons. He campaigned for world peace and democracy. His main aim was world peace and freedom of people. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. Visionary means dreamer. So Einstein could foresee the future. He could see the future. So when he died in the year 1955 at the age of 76, the world celebrated him as a dreamer. He was a world citizen and a scientific genius too. So this was all about the Albert Einstein. Thank you.